Hi, I'm Sergeant Lawrence from Hackney Safer Transport Team, part of the Road Transport Policing Command in Metropolitan Police. We're working in partnership with Hackney Council, really safer streets, and in particular the use of minibuses to convey children to and from school. The idea of this is to make awareness around the legislation around the use and construction, the use and driving of minibuses, and offering operators an opportunity to join Hackney's Safer Streets thing. So I will start the presentation now. Minibus codes of practice. The content of this presentation, we will look at the definition of a minibus, construction and use on the road, the licence requirements, Section 19 of Transport Act 1985, and where we can obtain best practice and driver training. Definition of a minibus. The Transport Act 1985 defines a minibus as a small bus, which is a vehicle adapted to carry more than 8, but not more than 16 passengers. The condition use of these vehicles on the road, they can only be driven by drivers who are legally entitled to do so, be well maintained and road legal, including seat belts. They must have a valid MOT certificate annually from the vehicle's first birthday, and a minibus with more than 13 passengers seats require a Class 5 test, whereas minibuses with less passenger seats only require a normal car Class 4 test. To be on the road, it must have valid insurance for the purpose of the use, have a valid vehicle excess duty for the correct taxation class of the vehicle. With the seatbelts, minibuses registered before 1st of October 2001 must have forward-facing seats for each child fitted with a seatbelt. If they had side-facing or rearward-facing seats, the children are not allowed to use these. Minibuses registered on or before the 1st of October, or after the 1st of October 2011, plus 2001 even, must have inertia reel 3-point seatbelts in forward-facing seats and inertia reel 3-point seatbelts or retractable lap belts in rearward-facing seats. Seatbelts on the front seats. Drivers must wear a seatbelt. All children must travel in the rear seats if a car seat or an adult belt is not fitted in the front. Children under the age of 3 must use an appropriate child restraint. Children aged from 3 to 12 and are under 1.35 metres must use an appropriate child restraint if available. If not, wear the seatbelt. Children of 12 and 13 years or are over 1.35 metres tall must use a seatbelt, and children 14 and over must wear a seatbelt, and they are personally responsible for doing so. The rear seats in small buses. Passengers sitting in the rear of minibuses that have an unladen weight of 2,540 kilograms or less must wear seat belts or use appropriate child restraints. In minibuses over 2,540 kilogram unladen weight, passengers aged 14 years or over must wear seat belts, and they are legally responsible for doing so themselves. However, passengers under 14 years of age at the moment are not required by law to wear seat belts, but it is strongly advised that seat belts are worn by all passengers where fitted. There is also a requirement of the operator to put signs up about wearing seatbelts where fitted, and a fine is liable if this is not so. Entitlement to drive a minibus must be older than 21 years old, hold a category B licence for at least 2 years, gain category D1 or D PCV entitlement on their licence by passing a higher DVSA medical, and pass a DVSA theory and practical test. However, drivers who obtained their full Cat B licence before the 1st of January 1997 may drive a minibus in the UK because their licence include category D1. Drivers who obtained their full car driving licence after this date are only licensed to drive a vehicle with up to 8 seats in addition to the driver. To drive a minibus, such drivers need to gain a category D1 or D PCB entitlement on their licence. However, there are exceptions. Part of these exceptions are volunteer drivers. Volunteer drivers are exempt from this requirement and are allowed to drive a minibus with up to 16 passenger seats in addition to the driver under certain circumstances. This exemption was designed to help charities and other groups who would not be able to provide D1 training and testing for all their volunteer drivers. Section 7, Part 6, Motor Vehicles Driving Licence Regulation 1999, state for the exemption to apply, the following conditions must be met. The driver must be 21 years or over, but under 70, unless they have passed a PCP medical test. Drivers must have a category B licence for at least 2 years, and the minibus is being used by a non-commercial body for social purposes, not for hire and ward. It goes on to say drivers must not receive any payment or consideration for driving a minibus other than out-of-pocket expenses, and the minibuses must not exceed 3.5 tonnes or 4.25 tonnes if special equipment for the carriage of disabled passengers included, and that no trailer is carried. Section 19 of the Transport Act 1985 gives further allowances, saying that certain organisations may be exempt from the PCB and PSV requirements if they are eligible for a minibus permit granted under the above Act. These permits allow certain non-profit making organisations, including schools, concerned with education, religion, social welfare, recreation and other activities of benefit to the community, to make a charge for being carried on a minibus without complying with the full PSV licence requirements, and in some circumstances without the drivers needing to have a category D1 or D licence. It also goes on to say that the following conditions must be met whenever a permit minibus is used. The minibus must only be used by the organisation to whom the permit has been granted, or by affiliated or associate members of that organisation. And minibus must not be used by members of the general public, except as above. And minibuses must not be operated for profit or for any activity which in itself is carried out for profit. And the organisations listed below have systems and codes of practice to help organisations utilise their minibuses, achieve practice and safety for their users. These are the Royal Society for Prevention of Accidents, minibus driver awareness schemes, and these are schemes that allow operators best practice and training for their drivers to allow the safe operation on the roads. And there'll be any questions after that?